All right, looks like we've got all responses. So just to take a look, again, this is sort of seeing how well our presenters did in our previous lesson and how well you were engaged in taking notes. So it looks like everyone did great on the photo degradation question. 2 people, again, thought it was harmful because it takes so long to occur, but the primary reason is because of the chemicals that it is releasing into the water. But that was good thinking about the length of time. It does take a long time. In terms of why the lace and albatross babies have plastic in their stomachs, it is because it is fed to them by their parents. The parents don't go out and eat, or the young don't go out and eat. The parents are regurgitating food into their stomachs, and it's sad that the parents are eating the trash. One respondent chose that they live near trash dumps. I mean, if you count the ocean as a trash dump, then you could say that they do live near a trash dump, but they're not near like true like landfills or anything like that. It's a sad thing that the trash is just on the ocean surface and it's so spread out that that's where they're eating it all from. Question about sea turtles is bycatch. Excellent. 100% of you got that it's they're caught accidentally and then often discarded. And in terms of sea level rise, which of the following is not a change that will occur? Yes, it is, because seawater is not going to be fertilizing soil. In fact, it's going to be flooding fields and essentially drowning plants and adding salt to the soil, meaning plants can't grow in it. So great job. Looks like you took some good things away from those previous presentations. All right, I think we should start off with Molly and Carmen, and then we'll have David, you'll go after that, and then we'll watch the recording of Vicky's presentation. So like usual, I have a link in that announcement, number 2. It's the same link to the same Google Doc we've been using, so please go there. And there isn't a notes feature on Zoom that I can see. So what you might want to do is just copy that same template of notes into your Google Doc and just have your Google Doc open maybe in a separate window. You can try to maybe split your screen if you want to, or if you need to, you can just click back and forth. But try to make sure that you're watching most of the presentations so you're getting the information from the slides. So however you need to do that, I think some kids might even be typing like below. You can make a little tiny screen below or to the side where you can still fill in a couple notes and type. So copy those titles. And I still have video links as well on the bottom, though. It looks like Zoom actually plays videos pretty well, much better than WebEx did. So I'll try to just play the videos right on the screen and we'll go from there. So Molly and Carmen, I think you're ready to go? Need a verbal acknowledgement.
Yes, we're ready.
Yes.
Yep, great. Okay. So everyone work on making sure your notes are prepared, and Molly and Carmen will pull up your presentation now. That was one thing I forgot to do. Let me open up Drive here. And what was you're doing chemical pollution, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great. All right, I'll have everybody, let's all mute ourselves except for our presenters, and just tell me when you want me to switch slides, and we're ready when you are.
So our presentation is about chemical pollution, and it's been documented since the 1780s with the start of the Industrial Revolution and is continuing into today. Next slide. So one major cause of chemical pollution is the industry. Factories that make food, toys, gadgets, and other things use many chemicals in the process and often deposit their waste products into the ocean or rivers, and the rivers can reach toxic levels. And deaths can occur in both animals and humans when a certain chemical builds up in food chains. This happened in Minamata Bay in Japan, where a factory deposited small amounts of waste into the ocean, which then caused a buildup of methyl mercury in the food chains, and more than 1,000 people died from eating seafood that had been contaminated. Next slide. Another way that chemical pollution affects us is through farming. So chemicals sink into the soil through pesticides and herbicides and then get into rivers and streams that lead to the ocean. And the chemicals are toxic because their purpose is to kill animals and plants in agriculture, and therefore they can kill marine life as well. And since the chemicals aren't biodegradable, they stay in the ocean for a really long time. Next slide. Medicine also contains chemicals, and though it wouldn't affect humans if it was passed through the food chain, it can be toxic to the animals. And the chemicals in medicine reach the ocean through sewage systems and then go through wastewater treatment plants, which then lead to the ocean. The chemicals can reach the aquatic environments and then cause fertility problems in fish. Next slide. We use many cleaning products in our homes, many of which contain chemicals that are toxic to marine life. The chemicals go down drains and eventually lead to the ocean where they can hurt marine life. But we can help by buying products that contain biodegradable ingredients and limit our effect on marine life in the ocean ecosystem by limiting plastic use and encouraging factories to dispose of their waste properly. Next slide.
So what is DDT? It was one of the first chemicals widespread as a pesticide, and it was very insoluble in water, which meant that it was hard for it to be destroyed, so it lasted for a long time. So the biggest issues they were having was that there was severe declines with the bald eagle population because it would hurt their eggs, and this is kind of just a picture of what would happen, and so they couldn't be born, and so the numbers were going way down. And human effects also, so people who lived by the farms or the DDT got in water or food, the cancers would occur, male infertility, miscarriages, low birth weight development, and liver damage. So there's a lot of issues, not just towards animals, but towards humans as well. Next slide. Biomodification. So it's the process by which a compound increases its concentration in the tissues or organisms as it travels up the food chain. So it becomes more concentrated as it moves through animals, so it can get into animals in the lower food chain and then gets eaten and eventually makes it to the top predators. And what the problem is, it actually gets more harmful as it goes through the ecosystem rather than becoming less and less because the amount of chemicals increases as it goes from animal to animal. Next slide. So nuclear radiation. When nuclear chemicals get dumped in the ocean, they don't last for a few years. They last for hundreds of thousands of years, and it's actually really harmful. And it especially affects animals' eggs because they're extremely sensitive to it, and it alters their DNA. So like these kind of pictures just show, these pictures kind of just show like what happens to the animals because millions of liters of radioactive waste get dumped in the ocean. And it just remains, so it affects the animals then, and then it affects their eggs, and it kind of just carries on for years, and it's noticeable till today. Next slide. So this was the nuclear radiation disaster in Fukushima, Japan, and it was in March 2011. There was a 9.2 earthquake, and the tsunami quickly hit, and it disabled the power plant. And what happened was the power plant got overheated and there was a lot of mechanical issues, and then it began to explode because pressure built up. And so these pictures just show how far the chemicals spread, and it ended up taking up the entire Pacific Ocean. And it goes all the way from Japan and China all the way to our coast with California, Oregon, and Washington. Next slide.
So during the Cold War, over 2,000 nuclear bombs were tested, and although they weren't used in war, they still really hurt the environment. So the Pacific Proving Grounds were a number of sites in the Marshall Islands and Pacific Ocean where the United States tested 105 nuclear bombs from 1946 through 1962. In 1954, the Bravo hydrogen bomb was detonated on the surface of a reef off the coast of Bikini Atoll, which is a place in the Marshall Islands, which sent marine life miles into the air. And the blast created a crater, and high amounts of radioactivity were exposed to both humans and marine life. So then all inhabitants of Bikini Atoll had to be permanently evacuated. And Smoke from bomb testing can block out light and hurt animals that depend on photosynthesis to survive, and the radioactivity that the animals and plants are exposed to can cause severe health problems. Next slide.
So we focus on chordates. So some.
Well, no, I saw there's a video link there. Did you want us to watch that or?
We can watch it after, I think.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. So we chose chordates, and what defines them is a notochord. It's like a flexible rod that is like the main support, and nerve cord, a dorsal tubular cord of nervous tissue above the notochord. And then there's the pharyngal slit. It's a filter feeding organs found in non-vertebrate chordates. Next slide. So some common chordates include animals like fish, birds, frogs, and even people, and a lot of those creatures are affected by chemical pollution. And next slide.
So fish are most affected by chemical pollution because as soon as one animal is affected by toxic waste, it spreads up the food chain and can end up killing off an entire species. Also, seabirds such as seagulls and pelicans and cormorants are in danger of chemical pollution because they eat fish, and if a bird eats a fish that's been contaminated by the toxic waste, the bird too is contaminated, and then that destroys another species. Next slide.
What has been done to resolve the issue? So there was a ban on DDT in about 2001, and that made a big issue. And also the ban of chemical waste in the ocean, because about 100,000 metric tons were being dumped, and that was just really damaging the environment and coral reefs and a whole bunch of different ecosystems. So they put a ban on that. And a lot of safety regulations have been put in place, especially after the Fukushima incident, because that kind of just destroyed the ocean. And so the EPA's mission is to protect human health and to safeguard the natural environment. So it basically is every single ecosystem that they're aiming to protect. Next slide. And so these are some of the organizations that really make a difference on our topic, and they both send really good messages to people on how they can help and what they can do, but also what the companies and how they're getting other people to help. And their mission's kind of just to save everything before it's too late. And then next slide. And then those are our citations.
Thank you.
All right. I'll have everybody unmute yourselves. Let's give them a round of applause. Great job. Okay, questions or comments for Carmen and Molly? Don't all jump in at once.
Would you say that the seabirds and fish are probably the animal that's the most impacted by this?
Yeah.
Yeah, they seem like particularly sensitive species.
Thanks.
Yeah, but it's mostly fish and birds because they have eggs. And so chemicals really affect eggs and alter DNA. So that's kind of why.
Yeah. A couple things that I thought were interesting. Great job with the chemicals and what they're producing these for, especially in farming. Pesticides and herbicides. So anyone want to guess, what are herbicides targeted at killing? What do you think they mean by herbicides?
Like
What do those chemicals kill?
weeds?
Yeah, those are plant killing chemicals, right? In particular, trying to kill weeds, things like that. Pesticides can even be categorized. You have what are called rodenticides. I want to guess what those kill.
Rodents.
Yep, and then there's insecticides that kill insects, things like that. And as far as I know, it's actually the insecticides, which are kind of the leading ones that are pretty bad because they're neurological chemicals. That's how they kill insects, is they basically sort of overstimulate their nervous system. But if enough of those chemicals gets into something like a human being, we have a relatively similar nervous system, so it can have further effects, as you guys outlined. You also mentioned that right down here that they're non-biodegradables. I don't know what that means. What does it mean to be non-biodegradable?
They don't
They don't
degrade.
break down.
Yeah, they don't break down naturally. These are usually things that we as humans have created. So there's nothing in nature that digests them. Some of them don't even really photodegrade all that well when they're exposed to sunlight. And so not something that was ever around before humans kind of came on the scene. A lot of these, you mentioned with medicine too, it's pretty fascinating. They're finding more and more antibiotics are getting into, the environment and creating these like antibiotic resistant organisms that normally would never be exposed to anyway, but it's because there's so much antibiotics in human waste and human sewage. And a lot of medicines as well are also hormone disruptors. So you mentioned that there's fertility problems. Some organisms can't breed anymore, and it's because a lot of these medications were hormone disruptors that are then disrupting the hormones needed for proper breeding cycles within these organisms. So that's good detail there. You mentioned the softening of the eggs. Why was the bald eagle the one that got all the attention though? Because I mean, this was happening to all birds. What's the big deal about bald eagles? Anyone know?
In
They almost went endangered, or they were endangered.
They were becoming endangered. But again, who cares? Why care about the bald eagle?
It's like the symbol of America.
Yeah, it's the American bird, right? And it's sad that that's what it took. But this is what got people's attention. Was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna wipe out our national symbol, and that's what really kind of woke people up to finally be like, maybe we shouldn't be using this pesticide, even though it has helped spread it around. And that actually pertains nicely to your description of biomagnification. So based on this, anyone want to guess where are bald eagles in the food chain? Anyone know? Would you say if they're at the top, in the middle, or on the bottom?
Top.
Yeah, they're topmost predators. And those are the organisms that are most at risk for accumulating these non-biodegradable toxins, right? Think about it. Every time a bald eagle eats a fish, it's adding to its load. Anyone want to guess what other organism is at the very top of its food chain? In fact, eats a lot of things. What else would be at high risk for contamination?
Sharks.
Sharks are definitely top level predators, but again, there's something else I'm thinking of.
Humans?
Yeah, us. We eat everything, and we're definitely top tier predators. And they are finding one idea is that the increasing rate of these chronic health issues like cancer and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease is because we're exposing ourselves to so many of these chemicals that are in our foods that we're eating throughout our lifetime. That's why they call them chronic diseases, because it takes a long time to build up these chemicals. Let's see. I like these pictures of the animals. Anyone want to guess what these are that are growing on their mouths here after being exposed to radiation? What do these fish and sharks have?
Tumors.
Yeah, they're probably tumors, forms of cancer. That's one of the ways that radiation exposure can mess up your DNA, which you girls mentioned, and it can create tumors and cancerous growths and things like that. It's pretty bad. So, great images of Fukushima too. Did anyone watch the HBO special Chernobyl? It's a really good special. If you haven't watched it, if you're looking for something to watch, you should check out Chernobyl. That was another nuclear disaster that like almost ended the world. Fukushima wasn't as bad, but was definitely not good for the fact that when the reactor was overheating, they were like, well, we need to let in ocean water to cool it down. So let's just do that and forget the consequences. We don't want this whole thing to blow up. And so that's why all this radioactive water was then released in the Pacific. And yeah, pretty crazy that you can see it just spreads everywhere. It's obviously, I think, in very low amounts, but there's definitely a little bit of radioactive water that went through everything. So good description of the chordates as well. The pharyngeal slits are like these little kind of slits almost by the throat structure. Anyone want to guess if you're an aquatic organism, what do those become? What do fish and sharks and things breathe through?
Gills.
Yeah, it becomes your gills. But you all had these same things as in your early development when you're probably like a couple weeks, maybe a month old. You had a lot of these same structures. In humans, this usually becomes your vocal cords inside of our throats. Yeah, kind of interesting developmental stuff. So, and finally, I like a lot of the stuff you mentioned about how they're addressing this. But honestly, and it's kind of sad that it always comes down to this, but it comes down to money and consumers. And the way we're going to be able to address chemical pollution is by making sure people don't buy things that have all these bad chemicals in them. So it's kind of on you guys, foods in particular. You can check the ingredients in foods and stuff. What really creeps me out is there's a huge organization agency that is not under FDA control. They do not have to report what is in their products, and that's cosmetics. Does anyone know what I mean by cosmetics? What are cosmetics?
Makeup.
Yeah. So next time you if you've got makeup or anything at home or eyeliner, whatever you use, look on the container. There's no ingredients listed. Half the time it just says like "do not ingest," which is sort of creepy because you don't know exactly what's in that stuff. It's not FDA regulated, and so when that stuff gets thrown away or washed down the sink or whatever, it's there's some bad things that come from that, and it's pretty crazy that that whole industry has managed to escape any kind of control. So I mean, things are getting a little better, but anyway. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, that was great. David, do you think you're ready to do your portion?
Oh, Mr. Haight,
Yeah.
could they watch the video?
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot about that. Did I close down? No, drive's still open. Here we go. All right, I'll just play it right through the screen. Do you want us to watch the entire video?
No, you can skip forward. I think it's like 40 or 30 seconds or so.
Okay, so start at about the 30-second mark?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let me pull it up and play it. Oops, hold on, I got block site going here. Basically connecting the Pacific and the Atlantic. And one thing when they were first trying to think, how much work this was going to be, how hard it was going to be, one of the ideas they had was to just take a whole long string of nuclear bombs and just put one nuclear bomb every like couple hundred meters or so. And then what were they proposing to do?
Like make craters, so it'd be like more helpful to like create the canal.
Yeah, just set them all off in a row like a string of firecrackers, and they'll just blow a giant ditch through the, and then the water will flow through, and great, we're all ready to go. Luckily, they were like, maybe that's not such a good idea to set off like so many nuclear bombs in a row in this place that we want to use. But it's just funny how nonchalant they were about these things. So great. Okay, David, think you're ready to go? All right, I'll pull up your presentation. Everyone else, again, make sure you filled in your notes, and let's get a new set of tiles. This is the last one for David and Vicky's presentation. We'll watch Vicky's video after David has presented. David, did you do the first half or second half, or like how do you want me to start from the beginning? I don't know if we can hear you, David. Yeah, you're unmuted, but your audio isn't coming through for some reason. You might need to give the app permission to use your microphone. If you need to, you can leave the room and come back in. Sometimes there's weird things you need to do, so. Okay, in the meantime, I'm gonna see if I can pull up Vicky's recording here. Okay, so while he's trying to figure that out, we'll move on to the next little assignment. We've heard from every group except for the one last one, but we'll try to fill that in if we can. In the meantime, before you vote, what I'd like everybody to do is to make sort of like a summary video. It's more like a pitch that you need to make to help remind people of your cause and why you deserve to get the money. And I'll show you, we're gonna use Flipgrid. How many of you have used Flipgrid before in other classes? Most of you, good. So you're familiar with this program. Back on that same Canvas posting, it's the third task right here before you vote for the project. There's a 1-minute Flipgrid video that I would like each of you to make. So this is, I've created a little Science2F class under Flipgrid, and the assignment right here is the Ocean Issues 1-minute project. And I'll share with you a little video that I made really quickly to, oh, or I guess I did not, I didn't pitch one, but here, I'll show you, let me show you one of the ones I made for my other class here. Hi, kiddos. So for this assignment, you have 1 minute to sort of make a pitch for your ocean issue. Why do you deserve the funding? So in that 1 minute time period in the video, you should summarize your ocean issue to remind us what it was you presented on, explain what you would do with the $100,000 and why you deserve that money. And I encourage using stickers like you see here or props. I would like my daughter to be able to enjoy the ocean and go diving on reefs. It's always good to save sea turtles. And you don't want to see this duck covered in oil. And I have no money anyway, so I could really use some funding for that issue. So anything along those lines is good. Hi, kiddos. All right, I think you get the gist of it. What I'm gonna do is break you into, use breakout rooms feature here on Zoom, and I'll split you into your different groups so you can at least touch base with your partner to make sure that there's not too much repetition. Obviously, there's gonna be some repetition because you're both doing the same project, but this will give you a chance to chat with your partner and say, okay, well, why don't I take the specific issue or this part of the issue while you take the animal or something like that, just to emphasize in your video. So again, you're trying to summarize your main argument, talk about what you would do with the funding and why you deserve the funding. You've got 1 minute to try to squeeze that in. So try not to talk fast, but more think about what's the key message you want to send and deliver that as best you can in 1 minute. So I'll take a moment now to split you into your individual groups.
Mr. Haight,
Yeah.
is this going to be like in class today, or are we going to do this?
We'll use time right now to work on it. So if
Right.
you want to like try to, or at least even just plan out the video and what you want to do. But yeah, you don't have to have it done by the end of class. It'll be homework if you don't get it done now. But we've got about another half hour left. So if David's able to get his audio working, then we'll hear his presentation. But otherwise, see if you can, yeah, okay, it looks like his audio isn't working. So we'll just move into the next portion and I'll work with him. So again, I'll take a moment just to split you into your groups, into breakout rooms, and I'll come check in with each of you. Let's say that we'll come back from the breakout rooms after about, I don't know, let's say 15 minutes. So that's at 9:50. There'll be 10 minutes left in the period. So let's plan to be back here in the main room by 9:50. That's when I'll end the actual meeting room. So, okay, it'll take a minute, but I'll split you into your individual group. So that is all I have for today. David doesn't look like he's able to get anything up and running. So we'll hopefully have recordings from David and Vicky on their eutrophication that I'll post and that you can spend some time watching. Or, well, actually, well, if they get them to me, then we'll start our next class just by watching that so we can at least be consistent. Let me share then the homework is going to be, it's already on Canvas and it should post actually right after this lesson, but your homework assignment is to make your 1 minute Flipgrid video. And again, that's one for each of you. Then I would like you to take some time to go and watch everybody else's really quickly. And then you can vote using, there's a Google form that you can choose which issue you want to vote to assign the $100,000 for. Again, please do not vote for your own. That is the one rule. In addition to that, we're going to move on to our next unit, which is going to be physics related, and we're going to get into gravitation and motion. So I'd like you to read Hewitt chapter 5.1 through 5.4 and take some notes either on your Google Doc or on paper in preparation for a little do now reading quiz, just like we would normally do in class. And it will be another Canvas quiz, just like what we did today. That's all you need to work on for Wednesday. Any questions on any of that?
Wait, so for the video, where do we vote again?
There should be an assignment that'll pop up right after class ends, and it'll have a link in there to a Google form, and you'll vote on that form. Okay. So yeah, it'll be an assignment that shows up after 10 a.m. I've timed it so it should release then. Does anyone need a copy of the Hewitt textbook? Like, does everyone have their copy? Because if you don't have one, I can get you a digital version. It's not exactly legal, but I can provide that if you need it. So let me know. But is everyone good? They've got a book they can read from? Thumbs up. All right, kiddos. That's all I have for you today. So you know what your homework assignments are. That should all post there. And as usual, feel free to reach out to me if you've got questions or post to the discussion board. So thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.